In Palestine, 1 year after the beginning of the genocide in Gaza Strip, Israel continues its attacks and murdered thousands of Palestinians in Khan Yunis. The head of European diplomacy, Josep Borrell, admitted on Monday that the West is helping the conflict in Ukraine to spread. The government of Venezuela held an antifascism cultural tribunal in solidarity with Palestine on the first anniversary of the beginning of the Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll be with the news. Stay with us. In Palestine, 1 year after the beginning of the genocide in the Gaza Strip, Israel continues its attacks and murdered dozens of Palestinians in Khan Yunis. Local authorities report that Israeli forces ordered the displacement of Palestinian citizens in eastern Khan Yunis following the start of an incursion against this town in the southern Gaza Strip. In this regard, authorities state that the Israeli forces destroyed the streets leading to an eastern entrance of the government hospital in Jenin and destroyed the entrance to storehouses in the region. Authorities announced that the recent aggressions make it difficult for ambulances to reach the wounded. In this context, Palestinian authorities report 986 health workers killed in Israel's genocidal actions in Gaza. During a year of aggressions, more than 300 humanitarian workers, mostly from the United Nations Agency for Palestine Refugees, 419 teachers, 175 journalists were killed by Zionist forces in Gaza. For its part, the World Health Organization warned that 10,000 people are still missing, some of them under the rubble after Tel Aviv's bombardments on the region. In Yemen, millions demonstrated on Monday in Sana'a on the occasion of the 1-year anniversary of the Al-Aqsa flood operation carried out by the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas against the Zionist regime of Israel. Under the motto "Strong Towards Freedom," the citizens showed their support to the Palestinian people resisting while condemning the aggressions of the Tel Aviv regime in Gaza and the assassination of the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. They also reject the massacres committed by Israel against civilians in Lebanon and Palestine. Demonstrators expressed that Al-Aqsa flood operation awakened the capabilities of the Zionist regime. Health authorities in Lebanon report that at least the latest Israeli attacks on towns in the south of the country leave around 22 deaths and 111 wounded. The Lebanese Ministry of Health reported in a statement that 8 people were wounded after the Israeli aggressions in the province of Beit Hermeh and 12 in the Bekaa area. Authorities confirmed that after 15 days of aggressions, the number of people killed by Tel Aviv has risen to more than 2,000 people, while the number of wounded is close to 10,000. In response to the Israeli incursion in Lebanon, the Hezbollah resistance continues to attack Israeli military and industrial settlements in northern Palestine. In Mexico, thousands of people demonstrated marching in support of Palestine and Lebanon and in rejection of the genocide perpetrated by the Zionist State of Israel. Citizens recall a year of resistance to the beginning of the genocidal escalation of the Zionist enemy against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip, demanding a stop to the massacre that extend across the West Bank, the occupied territories, and the people of Lebanon. In addition, after the march, a rally was held where social organizations demand the Mexican state to break off relations with Israel and to take a stand against the genocide in Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Yemen, and Syria. And now let's go and listen a report from our correspondent, Huda Hegazi.
Another of the sufferings and agonies that the Gazans have gone through during this whole year has been living in tents. Since the beginning of this war, more than 2 million Gazans have had to leave their homes, their land, and move to the south and center of the Gaza Strip, And since more than 70% of the Gaza Strip and more than 150,000 residential homes have been destroyed, most of the Gazans have had to live in this type of tents that they have made themselves with their own hands. As we can see, the tents are made of fabrics and plastics, and we have to stress that living in these tents has been literally a nightmare. In the summer, it is an embarrassing situation, in addition to the appearance of skin diseases due to the high temperatures and the presence of insects. And in the winter, in the cold weather, these tents do not withstand the storms, the winds and the rains, so they tend to be flooded. Therefore, both in winter and in summer, life in the tents is literally an agony. We cannot forget either the wastewaters between the tents, which are bound to produce diseases, the spread of diseases such as hepatitis and poliomyelitis. Unfortunately, this is the situation that Gazans have been experiencing for a year now. Also during this year, Gazans have suffered from malnutrition and food shortages. We have to say that above all, these Gazans have had to literally feed themselves on canned food and food from hospices. They say that during this year their life has literally been based on standing in long lines to get water and food, and that literally life here has been a real misery. Now we will talk with one of the Gazans who lives here in this place, in this camp, so that she tells us exactly what it has been like to live here. Please tell me how your life was like before and after October 7th.
I suffer with everything. Everything is very difficult. To get water, to get food, the heat, and now the cold weather and the rain are coming. There is no space in this tent and our children have no other place to go. The tent is also completely broken. We eat from the hospices. When the hospices make food we eat, otherwise we don't. I am a widow and I was living on welfare and from the aid provided by organizations, but at least I had a home and some money. But now the situation is much worse.
Can I come into your tent?
Yes, come in please.
Now we will go into this tent to see what life is like for the Gazans. Here we can see what a tent of approximately 3 square meters looks like. There is literally nothing. There are some backpacks with some clothes, but there are some mattresses here, but this lady has assured us that 7 people live in this tent. We are talking about 7 people living in a 3 square meter space, and this is only one case of the 2 million Gazans who are living in tents or even in school shelters. She says that this is the place where she cooks the food that she prepares for her children. These images really leave us speechless. And these are the conditions Gazans have been living in for 1 year now, since October 7, 2023. And what they are most afraid of is not knowing how much longer they will have to endure this suffering and live in these subhuman conditions that even animals would not stand.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can now join us on our TikTok account at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. Chinese and North Korea leaders celebrate 75 years of diplomatic relations. Chinese President Xi Jinping stressed that the establishment of diplomatic ties between the two countries allow mutual support in consolidating socialism, defending national sovereignty, and promoting peace in the region. North Korea's President Kim Jong-un reaffirmed his government's commitment to strengthen cooperation with China in line with the interests of both peoples and the requirements of the new era. The two leaders wishes each other mutual prosperity, success in consolidating their achievements, and progress in becoming increasingly modern societies. China recorded a 0.86% increase in its foreign exchange services in September. The increase represents a difference of $28 billion in comparison with August. The nation's state administration of foreign exchange said the U.S. dollar index declined, consequently global financial assets prices increased. According to the entity, the combined effects of currency translation and assets price changes led to the increase in the country's foreign exchange reserves. In Kazakhstan, the construction of a nuclear power plant was approved on Sunday through a referendum with 66.23% support and 63.87% turnout, according to the preliminary data presented by the country's Central Electoral Commission. More than 12.2 million Kazakhs voted on Sunday to agree or disagree on the government's proposal to build the country's first ever nuclear power plant. During the process, it was reported that there were no major incidents. In addition, the president of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, went to the polls earlier in the day and cast his vote at the polling station in the capital of Astana. The construction of a nuclear power plant will reduce Russia's electricity imports and its dependence on fossil fuels, as the country's 80% depend on coal mines to generate electricity, a highly polluting sector. The head of the European diplomacy, Josep Borrell, admitted on Monday that the West is helping the conflict in Ukraine to spread. Borrell stressed that if the European Union and the U.S. stop helping Ukraine, the conflict will be over in 15 days and Kiev will be forced to capitulate. Likewise, the European diplomatic representative points out that if the West suspends aid to Ukraine, the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, will achieve his goal. On the other hand, Borrell calls for negotiations between Kiev and Moscow on terms that benefit both Ukraine and the West. The Russian government accused Ukraine of planning a false flag attack with toxic substances during the military operation. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that to have intel on Ukraine trained in more than 4 security agents in the highway to take samples documenting the use of toxic substances. In turn, the ministry said that the evidence will be handed over to the representative of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons to prepare a report. The Defense Ministry warned about a request of the permanent mission of Ukraine to the European Union to supply about 283,000 hazmat suits and 20,000 kits of rapid containment of chemical warfare agents. Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch our interviews, top stories, special broadcasts, and more. Hit the subscribe button and active the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. One financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. On Sunday, Mexican entities and political leaders paid homage to the late president of the Chamber of Deputies, Ifigenia Martinez. Martinez was an outstanding left-wing feminist in Mexico who passed away at 94, 4 days after she had led Claudia Sheinbaum sworn in ceremony. On Friday, Martinez posted on X that handing in the presidential seat to the first woman president was one of the greatest honors of her life. Meanwhile, President Claudia Sheinbaum sent her the deepest condolences. Moreover, legislator Ricardo Monreal described her as an extraordinary woman. Furthermore, the Autonomous National University of Mexico prized her as a distinguished economist and a tireless fighter for freedoms and democracy. And the government of Venezuela held an anti-fascism cultural tribunal in solidarity with Palestine on the first anniversary of the beginning of the Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip. The event was held at the Guaraíra Repano National Park, where flags of Palestine and Lebanon were raised as a tribute to the struggle waged by Palestinian people against the Israeli genocide since 2023. The event was attended by a diplomatic representative of Palestine, Lebanon, and Syria and Iran, as well as other authorities of the national government. The Secretary of Al Participé, Jorge Raza, and part of the Arab community in the Venezuelan capital. On the other hand, Venezuela's Attorney General Tarek William Saab highlighted that President Hugo Chavez and Fidel Castro were always on the side of the Palestinian cause.
Siempre vamos a tener en pie.
We will always have in our minds how Commander Hugo Chavez together with Fidel Castro at the time were the only presidents, perhaps in the world, who maintained a firm position in defense of Palestine and in defense of the Arab world. And today I would like to vindicate those names, because their legacy have been continued by the President Nicolas Maduro Moros, the highest levels of the government and all the powers of the Venezuelan nation, to defend a cause that is no longer of the Arab world, that is no longer of the Middle East, but of the whole humanity.
On the other hand, Venezuela's Minister of Interior and Justice, Diosdado Cabello, assured that the flag of Palestine is the flag of the peoples who don't give up and fight.
This October the 7th, I extend my greetings to you, comrades, to the people of Palestine, to the peoples of Lebanon, to the Arab peoples, who are being attacked by the genocidal forces that rule Israel, and I take this opportunity, in this emblematic place for all Venezuelans, to raise the Palestinian flag. When we raise the Palestinian flag, we are raising the flag of the free peoples of the world, of the peoples who don't give up, of the peoples who fight.
In Venezuela, the Secretary of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, started Monday a work agenda to consolidate relations on the future of oil markets. OPEC Secretary General Haitham Al-Ghaez met with the Venezuelan Minister of the People's Powers for Oil, Delcy Rodriguez, at the headquarters in Caracas of the state oil company PDVSA. The meeting seeks to strengthen the policies and strategies for the benefit of the oil-producing countries in the world oils market and to expand cooperation alliances with this important multilateral organization. Moving on, Hurricane Milton threatens to a Category 5 powerhouse Monday, driving sustained winds of 180 kilometers per hour rolls across the Gulf of Mexico, bound for that could be a devastating crash Wednesday along Florida's already storm pattern western coast. The National Hurricane Center said on its 5 p.m. local time advisory that Milton had reached those rare wind speeds 3 hours after warning the hurricane had explosively intensified to 175 kilometers per hour. Its wind speeds have increased by the 95 kilometers per hour in 24 hours, by the 130 kilometers per hour in 36 hours. The storm is the storm now about 675 miles from Florida, rapidly strengthens from Category 2 to 5 in just a few hours on Monday. The center that has issued hurricane watches across portions of Florida and warns that parts of the state could be overwhelmed by life-threatening storms, surge flooding, rains, and damaging winds. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English, and from the south of Marrero, thank you for watching.